Hello, it is Epileptalk again. I have no idea how to do digital editing, so I'm just gonna hold up this paper. Today's video is going to be on my specific types of seizures that I have, and I have my computer right behind my camera so I can actually read the actual definitions. There's going to be a lot of them. The first definition I have is my vocabulary, because I decided to start doing that, is going to be post-ictal, which is the altered state of consciousness after an epileptic seizure. It usually lasts between 5 and 30 minutes, but sometimes longer, depending on how severe the seizure was. And it's characterized by drowsiness, confusion, nausea, hypertension, headache, or migraine, or any kind of other disorientating symptoms. Everyone is different. All epilepsy is different, as I always say, and everyone has their own things that go along with it. I have another vocabulary word, and that's going to be tonic, which is seizures with sudden tension or stiffness. And then we have clonic, which is fast stiffening and relaxing of a muscle repetitively. I don't know if I said that right. And then at the end, we're going to get into tonic-clonic, which makes a lot more sense once you describe those two words. All of these make more sense once you describe them. So the first kinds of seizures I have are focal onset seizures. And that's when one part of the brain is doing its own thing, when that electricity in the brain is just all over the place, but it's only one part. And there are focal onset aware seizures, also known as simple partial seizures, and focal onset impaired seizures, which is a complex partial seizure. In the beginning, we only thought I was having complex partial seizures, but we found out that simple partial seizures are actually just the auras you get, so that weird funky feeling you get before you have a seizure, or just when you feel really off, that's actually a type of seizure in a small part of your brain. And the definition is, like I said, seizures that start in one area of the brain and the person can remain alert and able to interact. A lot of the time it doesn't impair your consciousness, you just feel really off sometimes. I was having a lot of these and I didn't know. I just thought I was acting like a loony, because I have epilepsy that starts in the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe of my brain. And I was having focal emotional seizures, and they're the three different kinds I have are focal emotional characterized by fear, panic, or anxiety, focal emotional characterized by crying, and focal emotional characterized by anger. So my mom would notice before my tonic-clonic seizures that I would just get really, really pissy, and that's the anger portion of it. It makes sense now, because I was constantly pissy and I didn't know why, and I always felt like garbage and I always had headaches, but it didn't click to me because I thought I was seizure free. And I knew I was having auras, but I didn't realize that they were seizures. So I didn't realize they were actually affecting the way my brain was working. So I was randomly getting pissy, and it was happening more and more and more. And, you know, I was being like a really horrible friend to my best friend, and a lot of stuff had happened. And then on top of that, I have the fear, panic, anxiety ones, where you just get this overwhelming sense of like absolute uncomfortable fear. It's like paranoia, but nothing's going on. It's just in your body, you get really scared for no reason. And I can't explain it, but I just felt like really off and loopy, and I just had this sense of like complete doom over me, and like I would think I was gonna die and all this stuff. And along with epilepsy, you're always scared you're gonna have a seizure, and that just made it a million times worse. And it's just very bad. And I would go, the only person I ever went to with my epilepsy was my best friend, and I completely overwhelmed him with it, because I was just always having these issues and I didn't realize that they were seizures at the time. And the other one I have that was probably the most obnoxious was the focal emotional with crying. And I would just randomly start sobbing or crying anytime I got slightly stressed or anything overstimulated me. Like going to a casino and not having my friend with me, I just started bugging out because, you know, all the lights and all the noises, it was so overstimulating, and I didn't have anything to ground me. And I felt like I was about to start crying. You know, it was that fear, panic, anxiety, but it started turning into the crying. And another thing is, like, randomly I would just start crying over small things, and I didn't know why it was happening. It was super annoying. And a big thing was when, like, I was next to something and it was suddenly loud. Like, one time I was next to a car and it got locked and the horn went off and I just started crying. And anytime a horn went off and I was next to a car, I'd start crying. And I never understood it until I actually looked into this kind of stuff. And it makes so much more sense now. And it was really annoying because if something stressed me out a lot, I would just start sobbing, and there was no real reason for it, because I just completely overreacted to literally everything. And the worse you get, the more stress you have, the more chance you have of turning it into a worse seizure. I mean, focal onset are the auras before a tonic-clonic seizure. So if you let it get too far, eventually it can get worse. The other kind I have is the focal onset impaired, which is a complex partial seizure. And that's the actual definition, is a seizure that starts in one area of the brain or a side of the brain. Like I have mine in the frontal left lobe and the temporal lobe. And the person is not aware of their surroundings or what they're doing. They have automatisms, which are basically like actions that you do over and over, but you're not aware. Like lip smacking, picking at clothes, fumbling, you're unaware of your surroundings or wandering. I had one of these back in October of 2019 where I literally left my house at 1 in the morning and just started walking down the street, but I wasn't aware of any of it. I've done really stupid stuff, because if it's one of those anger ones, you know, I'll randomly throw things, or I'll just start yelling at things. Or a big thing is I will just shut down and just start crying and shaking. And I've been having a lot of these lately, and I didn't know, but I just thought I was being like an over-emotional, overstimulated baby, and I thought it was like my epilepsy just acting up. I didn't realize I was actually having seizures, and it makes so much more sense because I literally couldn't control it. Even if I tried to, I couldn't calm down unless my best friend like got rid of that sense of fear. And like I said, it was putting a lot on him. But like if anything got too bad, I'd just shut down and I'd blank. And I'd have a memory lapse, and I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh, I was too overstimulated, you know, my brain's just blocking it out. But lately I've been having a lot where I'll start fidgeting. My mom says I like pick at my clothes, or I try to grab stuff and I tense up, and I think she said something about me blinking. It's hard for me to remember all this, because on top of that, where in my brain my seizures are is where the memory is, in the temporal lobe. And also, you know, even though I thought I wasn't having seizures, my memory never got better. I kept forgetting important things, and certain things that should have been more important, like I couldn't remember, and my memory just kept, that was my lizard, my memory just kept resetting itself, even though that only happened when I was having seizures. And it makes sense now. And you know, with these, like I said, it's just that overwhelming sense of fear. And a big thing that people need to understand is you can't control it. People think that since you're conscious or you look conscious that you can do something about it, but that part of your brain is doing its own thing, and there's no telling it to stop. You know, you just have to wait it out. And the thing about these is they can last anywhere from a few seconds to like a minute. But a big thing with them is because they're the simplest kind of seizure, I think I wrote that somewhere, that those are the most common type of seizures, is these focal onset seizures. And like I don't remember what rant I was just going on, but like they're still seizures. You can't control them, and people get angry about that because you're still conscious, but you can't do anything about it, you know? Like I said, I didn't even know I was having them. So for someone else to know that you're having them, you know, they might not believe you about that. The next kind I have, I'm on my computer, that's why you can see my pinky, is atonic seizures. Now, like I said, tonic means stiffening. So atonic means the opposite. They're called drop seizures because it means without tone, and your muscles just suddenly become limp and you drop to the ground. Some people remain conscious, some people don't. But what it does is a part of your body or your whole body just goes completely limp. And I was having a lot of these and people thought I was just passing out. This happened at work. I got overly stressed at work because of something that had happened, and this had happened to me, and I had hit my head because I had a huge lump on it somewhere. And I think that's what started all these other seizures, is like I got overly stressed and I managed to have a seizure, and then my brain was just like, what's up, I'm back in business. This video is definitely going to be a longer one, but that's another type of seizure I have, and people thought I was passing out. I went undiagnosed for 1.5 years because I started having these focal onset seizures, and they slowly turned into atonic seizures, and people are just like, she's just staring off and she's passing out. People thought it was fake. I don't know. I don't remember because I was having so many, like I wasn't able to remember anything. I lost my ability to talk. I didn't know who I was. Everyone had to watch me constantly. I lived with 3 other people watching me, my mom and my grandparents. And it was very hard for all of them, I know that. Getting back to the seizures that I'm having now, the focal onset, which is the main kind that I'm having now, I will completely zone and everything, but it got so bad when I went to the hospital because I was having so many. You know, I was writing down when I was having these memory lapses and when I felt like garbage. I was having like probably 30 a day. You know, I would get about 20 written down, but then you have to also think like, I don't know when I'm having them. I was just going off of like when I was just mad confused and didn't know what was going on. So I lost my ability to talk. I was in the hospital, so that just made it way worse. I lost my ability to walk. They had to give me a blood thinner because I couldn't get out of bed or walk. Now I need a cane to get around because my whole body is just so weak. And I lost my ability to eat. Now, one thing that we think I have, and my neurologist said he thought I had, was abdominal epilepsy, which I don't really quite know how it works, but it's such a rare thing. There's not even tests on it, but it's definitely a real thing. Some doctors question it, but my neurologist said he thinks that I might have it. And it's like basically where your stomach is also, I don't know if it's having seizures or what the actual terminology of it is, but a big thing that I couldn't do was eat or drink because my brain was not processing that I was hungry. And anything that I put inside of my system, it wanted to throw up because it was like trying to eat after eating a 3-course meal, and my body just didn't want to have it. I could only eat crackers, and even still, over the span of like a week, I had maybe 16 crackers. And I got really, really weak. My resting heart rate was like 124, and they were keeping me alive through an IV. Like, they had to give me calories through an IV and water through an IV because I couldn't do anything. I'm still having issues walking. When I have the seizures, it takes a bit for me to remember how to talk. I'm losing my memory of vocabulary. It gets harder and harder every day because I'm still having them, and it's kind of scary because I know I have it in me somewhere, but I can't remember what it is. Like, my best friend, I call him Dill Pickle, and when I get really upset and, like, I'm having these seizures, I call him Pickle because I can't think of his real name. And, there's other words like that, too, where I can't remember what the word is. I'm also losing my ability to, like, form speech in terms of, like, sentences and stuff. And it's really difficult with even the small seizures, you know, it's still causing these issues. I know I got really off topic there, but I just wanted to point that out. Like, there are side effects even when you're not having seizures because your brain is still like, I don't know what's going on. The next kind of seizure I have is myoclonic seizures. It was funny because I was just twitching and stuff and I didn't think anything of it. And I had an ex-boyfriend who, like, not to be mean, but totally being mean, is like really not the smartest. I know he watches these, I'm sorry. But he would call them mini seizures, and, you know, I'd kind of just laugh about it. I was like, no, I'm just twitching, you know. And I recently found out that they actually are seizures, and I'm sorry. But they are brief shock-like jerks of a muscle or a group of muscles. Myo means muscle and clonic means rapidly alternating contraction and relaxation, as I said. So basically it's just jerking and twitching of a muscle. They usually last only a few seconds, but when you have one, there's a chance that you can have more than one over a short period of time. So a big one for me is my neck will twitch to the side and I can't stop it. I can still talk, I don't know if that's normal. I still know what's going on, but I physically cannot stop it. My hands will do it, my legs will do it. But the biggest one that I noticed is my neck. It'll, like, twitch to either side. And I actually had an issue because the night I had my VNS surgery, this scar here, I pulled a staple out because I was twitching so much, the one on the far end came loose. And it's super strange, you know. There's so many different kinds of epilepsy, and so many people don't realize it, which brings me to my final one, is Tonic-Clonic. And as I explained, this is the most common type of seizure someone thinks of when you say you have epilepsy. A lot of people don't even realize there are other types of seizures, even doctors. And it's called generalized tonic-clonic because it means both sides of the brain. But it can just start in one side of the brain. That's what auras are. It's when you have those simple partial seizures in one part of your brain and then it takes over your whole brain. And that's what happens to me typically. I, like, go up the scale of seizures, you know. And my mom used to be able to tell, like, 10 minutes before I had one because I would just start acting, like, super pissy and I'd slowly start losing it because I was going up this scale of things. And the definition is, let me find it. It just says this type of seizure is what most people think of when they hear the word seizure. Like I said, the older term of this type of seizure is a grand mal. It is the combination of characteristics of tonic seizures and clonic seizures. So it means you stiffen up and then start shaking all over. You know, dance party rave. So the actual science behind it is the tonic phase comes first. All the muscles stiffen. People, before they have them, will let out a cry or a groan because you stiffen, so you let out any air that's in your lungs, and people will hear that. Big issue with mine is I stop breathing when I have them. So it was getting really scary in the hospital. We didn't know what was going to happen because I went from having no seizures, or what I thought was no seizures, to having all these different kind of seizures in the span of a week. And I was having like 30 and they slowly started getting worse and I started having tonic-clonics and everyone was terrified because it's been so long we didn't know what was happening. You lose consciousness with these because your whole brain is being taken over. There's no remaining conscious for this. It takes over your whole body because it's your whole brain. And you fall to the floor because obviously you're not conscious, you know, you can't keep yourself up. A big thing with this is, since everything is shaking, a lot of epileptics who have tonic-clonics have scarred up sides of their cheeks. I know mine are super scarred, and the sides of their tongues. People have bitten through their tongue and all that, but never put something in an epileptic's mouth when they're having a seizure, because they tense up, you can dislocate their jaw. And that's so bad. And then also, you can never swallow your tongue, so don't even like attempt to do that. I know I covered that in my first video. So if you see a person and they are bleeding and there's drool, you shouldn't worry about it. It's typically just from them biting it. And this, when I said the thing about the putting things in your mouth, a big thing is the first aid to this, and this is about 21 minutes in, so I'm gonna say this at 21 minutes and put it in the description. Seizure first aid for a tonic-clonic, or any kind of seizure really, if you are going unconscious, is you always want to make sure the person is flat. You want to make sure their entire body is flat, because if they're shaking and you have them even slightly elevated, that can really hurt their spine, can be uncomfortable. And to make sure they're flat, you don't want their head crooked to the side, so you want to put a pillow that perfectly lines everything up. Now, you want to put them on their side, because if they're shaking and all this, they have a chance of throwing up, and you don't want them to aspirate, because that would be bad. And the biggest thing you want to do is you want to time these seizures, because if a seizure lasts more than 5 minutes, you want to call an emergency room, because like I said, I stop breathing, other people have other issues, and this can cause like brain damage and all that. And then if a seizure lasts more than 10 minutes, or you have 3 seizures in a row without coming back to consciousness, this is status epilepticus, which you need emergency treatment in a hospital. That's very bad. It's very dangerous. Getting back to where I was, let's see, so we're in the clonic phase now. After you stiffen up, you go to the clonic phase. These seizures can last so many different kinds of times, and some people have seizures that normally last more than 5 minutes. So a big thing you want to ask someone too is, if they have epilepsy, how long you should wait to call an ambulance, because if they have seizures that normally last a minute, and then they have a seizure that lasts 4 minutes, you know, maybe then you should call. And always ask a person if they have emergency meds as well. Or a VNS. Like, I have a VNS, and this is my magnet, and if I swipe it over the VNS, it'll send a very strong signal to my brain, which will help me come out of the seizure if I'm already having one. Let's see. So the arms and usually the legs will jerk rapidly and rhythmically, and there will be like bending at the knees and the elbows, and also at the hips. People will like thrust, or everything will shake, you know, the biting that I said, because all your muscles are just having a rave. They're just doing their own thing. And after however long their seizure will last, it depends on the person, the shaking will slow and then it will stop. Now, a person's face when they're having a seizure will look very drained, because people have trouble breathing when this happens, because they are tensing up and all that. Or it could be lasting too long. A reason I have my seizures is lack of oxygen to the brain. And so my mom would also know I was having seizures, because my face would just go pale. My lips would turn blue, and then I'd have one, and, you know, it wouldn't really help the situation. A big thing is, because everything is shaking, some people are incontinent. So I know that was an issue I was having, and, you know, people are embarrassed about it, but you can't help it. A lot of this stuff that people get embarrassed about, you can't help it. You're having seizures, your brain is doing its own thing, and you can't control it. And for people that don't know, incontinent is when you, like, use the bathroom when you don't want to. After the seizure, your consciousness and awareness will return slowly. This is where the post-ictal state comes in. Your whole brain has just shut down, so it takes a while for it to reboot itself. When I have grand mal or Tonic-Clonic, that's what they're called now, I don't know who I am or where I am or what's going on, and I am terrified. Never, with any kind of seizure, never crowd around a person or, you know, be all up in their face when they wake up, because they are terrified. And I wouldn't be surprised if one time I punched someone if they were too close to me, because you just get scared. You get very weak as well, and very, very tired. After any kind of seizure, you get very tired. My lizard is doing parkour. But yeah, this is a post-ictal state. It takes people a while to come back, and they are very, very confused and exhausted. So make sure that, like, the person talking to them is someone they trust, or someone who knows what's going on, because, like, it is the worst when you wake up to a crowd of people. Yeah, like I just said, it says the person may be sleepy, confused, irritable, or depressed. Depression is a big thing with me because of where in my brain I have my seizures, so it doesn't help. And it also explains why I've been depressed, even though I thought I wasn't having seizures, because I was, and my brain was just super bad. And the final thing it says about these is the timing that I said. You know, the 5 minutes to 10 minutes. You always want to make sure you know a person's epilepsy, though, because everyone is different and everyone has different side effects. But you definitely just want to know, because I definitely have pushed people away because of it, because of the way I've acted. And especially recently, I didn't know I was having seizures, and I was just acting like a complete turd to my mom, my friend, you know. My mom knew something was wrong because of how pissy I was getting, and I had no reason for it. I was just snapping back and doing things, and it was because somewhere in my brain there was some epileptic stuff going on, and I didn't know. And all it took was one bad seizure to just set off everything. That's one thing with epilepsy, is you may be seizure-free, but you can never be cured of it. And there's always that fear that you might have another one. So this is just my epilepsy and how it affects me, and maybe it'll, you know, spark something in other people to, you know, say how they're doing and stuff. I actually have a friend who's considering making a video because she's just now being diagnosed. And if anyone wants to message me or leave a comment or anything, and they want to tell their story, I'm more than welcome to, you know, listen to it and all that, and I can put it on here. A big thing is just if you do send me a video, no flashing lights or anything. I'm not photosensitive, but people who are watching this might be. And yeah, that's all. So like I said, comment anything you want to. I do enjoy people telling me what to make these videos about, because I am constantly just all over the place. I mean, I like started doing my makeup and I got as far as my lipstick, and then I got distracted. So if you tell me what to make it about, like I did with this one, I will do the research for you and maybe I can help. So thank you for watching this 29-minute video. That's my lucky number, so that's good. And if you stayed this far, maybe like a YouTuber, leave a like or something. End epilepsy. Everyone have a good day.